Well, good morning. Welcome to church this morning. The original Good Friday story is such a fast-moving whirlwind of action, and as the plot thickens, there is a swirl of emotions and reactions to Jesus. I did wonder to myself, can I make a list of all the emotions in the story? How do people feel? And so I just sat down and I started reading the story sentence by sentence by sentence. And my list of how I thought the characters might feel went for pages and pages and pages. I'm not going to give you those emotions now, but what I am going to give you is here's some of the reactions that I think some of the characters have to Jesus. They're strong reactions by various characters along the way. Now, some of the characters we don't really know how they were reacting to Jesus, but others we do know. Others, there was outrage or weeping. Some, they're just watching. Some are sneering and mocking. Some are intensely hopeful. Some are amazed and astonished. Some show regret or fear, and some show courage. It's an incredible story. This morning, we're going to hear the Good Friday story in 4 big chunks. And then at the end, we're going to watch a little video of the whole story once more. For each chunk, I'm going to introduce some characters. They're eyewitnesses as Jesus goes to the cross and dies. And I'm going to ask you, how do you think people are reacting to Jesus? Or how do you think people are reacting to the cross? And for some of them, I might say, now for this one, for this character, I want to know, I want someone who's an uncle to tell me, how is this person reacting? Or I might say, here, I want someone who's in infant school to tell me, how is this person reacting to the cross? In a moment, Natasha is going to come and read the first chunk, but I'll set the scene. Tensions have been simmering, and last night, on Thursday night, there was a betrayal by Judas. Jesus was arrested by the temple guards, and then what happened in the middle of the night and early in the morning was this awful triple denial. Peter was asked 3 times, "Are you a friend of Jesus?" And Peter 3 times said, No, I don't know who he is. And Luke tells us that on the 3rd time, Jesus turned and looked at Peter, and Peter knew that Jesus knew that Peter knew that he had failed. It was awful. The soldiers were then incredibly cruel. And then, as the story is told, Jesus has a trial, a kind of a trial, in front of the council, and then in front of Pilate, and then in front of Herod. And then he comes back to Pilate, and Pilate says, he's innocent. He's innocent. He's innocent, I tell you. Even Herod says that he's innocent. 4 times we're told he's innocent. But there's an angry crowd who wants Jesus dead. Release Barabbas. Crucify Jesus. And Pilate is scared into doing what they ask. We're now on the road to the cross. And our first 2 characters, or sets of characters, the first one is Simon from Cyrene, that's from Northern Africa. Jesus is exhausted and he can't carry the cross anymore. And the soldiers don't want him kind of lagging behind and holding things up and making them late, and the other 2 criminals will go, well, we haven't talked about the criminals, the other 2 victims, they'll have them up on the cross, but Jesus won't have got there yet. And so they grab Simon and they say, we want you to carry the cross for Jesus. Also on the road, everybody knows when you see someone carrying a cross, they don't have very much longer to live. In the crowd, there is a group of women. And this group of women are doing exactly what women in some parts of the world still do today when someone is about to die or someone has just died. When I grew up in Papua New Guinea, there were often groups of women doing what these women are doing. And despite Jesus' exhaustion, he turns and says something to them which is really quite surprising. So I'm going to ask you, how does Simon react to Jesus? And how do the women react to Jesus? And you might want to use some of the ideas on the screen. You might have better ideas. I'm going to ask, I'm hoping that there's someone in primary school. Do we have anyone in primary school who might be able to answer, how do the women react? And then I'm going to ask, is there someone in high school who can say, how does Simon react? Natasha's going to read. Thank you, Natasha.
Luke 23, verse 26 to 31. As the soldiers led him away, they seized Simon from Cyrene, who was on his way in from the country, and put the cross on him, and made him carry it behind Jesus. A large number of people followed him, including women who mourned and wailed for him. Jesus turned and said to them, "Daughters of Jerusalem, do not weep for me. Weep for yourselves and for your children. For the time will come when you will say, 'Blessed are the childless women, the wombs that never bore, and the breasts that never nursed.' Then they will say to the mountains, 'Fall on us,' and to the hills, 'Cover us.' For if people do these things when the tree is green, what will happen when it is dry?" This is the word of the Lord.
Now, the women first. I said I would ask, is there someone in primary school who can tell me, how did the women react to Jesus? I can see a hand. How did the women react, Eddie? You think astonishment? And does anyone have anything to add to that? In the story, how do the women react? Yes. You think they might be weeping? I think they can't believe what's happening. I think exactly those two words, actually, in what I've thought about beforehand, I thought they were astonished and weeping. And I said I would ask someone who's in high school, what about Simon? What are we told about how Simon, there's pressure here because we have a few high schoolers in the room. How does Simon react? Anyone brave enough to answer? I thought I heard a voice. Did I hear a voice or not? The curious thing about Simon is that we're not told. We're just not told. I think Jesus has already said, if you're going to follow me, you need to take up your cross and follow me. And now we have someone actually doing it. Is he a follower of Jesus or not? We don't know. The women, I think, must have been astonished when Jesus said, "Don't weep for me, weep for yourselves and for your children, because a day of terrible, terrible suffering is coming. If they do these things to me now, what will happen when I'm gone?" He is still so concerned for the people that he came to seek and save. Okay, the story now moves to the cross, and in a moment Natasha's going to read our biggest chunk of this morning's story. We're not told very much about the actual crucifixion, but I have here's the characters to watch. I want to ask someone who is either a grandparent or an uncle. how does the crowd react to Jesus? So if you're a grandparent or an uncle, how does the crowd react? I'm hoping there might be someone who's in infant school who might be able to say, how do the rulers react to Jesus and the soldiers? And then here, I don't know whether this is trying too hard. I was hoping there might be someone watching on Zoom who might be able to put in the chat, is this going to work? I forgot to ask this, Boyan. Yes, Boyan's nodding his head. How did the criminals react to Jesus? And again, use some of the words that I've got on the screen to help you think about how they react. So the crowd, the rulers and soldiers, and the criminals. Natasha's going to read again.
Luke 23, verse 32 to 43. 2 other men, both criminals, were also led out with him to be executed. When they came to the place called the Skull, they crucified him there, along with the criminals, one on his right, the other on his left. Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing." And they divided up his clothes by casting lots. The people stood watching, and the rulers even sneered at him. They said, "He saved others. Let him save himself, if he is God's Messiah, the chosen one." The soldiers also came up and mocked him. They offered him wine vinegar and said, "If you are the king of the Jews, save yourself." There was a written notice above him which read, "This is the king of the Jews." One of the criminals who hung there hurled insults at him. Aren't you the Messiah? Save yourself and us." But the other criminal rebuked him. "Don't you fear God," he said. "Since you are under the same sentence, we are punished justly, for we are getting what our deeds deserve. But this man has done nothing wrong." Then he said, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." Jesus answered him, "Truly I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise."
So first, if you're a grandparent or an uncle, how does the crowd react to the cross of Jesus? Yes, I can see Gillian's hand. Thank you, Gillian. I realise, particularly for people who are not in the room, I need to repeat everything that is said, don't I? Gillian has been saying that, some of them, we're told the crowd is watching, but this is the same crowd that was angrily asking for Jesus to be killed earlier, and so are they still egging them on? Now, I'm hoping there might be someone who's in infant school who can answer, what about the rulers and the soldiers? How did they react to Jesus? Oh, I can see a big hand. They're mocking. And I saw another hand over here. They're making fun of Jesus. That's exactly right. Those are 2 great, thoughtful answers. Thank you. They're teasing Jesus. They're insulting Jesus. They're sneering at him. And lastly, is there anything in the chat? Do we have some answers to what about the criminals? This is actually a more difficult one, and I thought people who are at home, they can help us know. Yes, Boyan, I'm listening.
One criminal mocks the other criminal, and I'm sure it's in your head.
One criminal is mocking, and the second criminal shows, say again? Fear and courage. And I think as well, hopefulness. The crowd, it has been baying for his blood, and now it's just watching. What the rulers and soldiers and the criminal on one side don't seem to be able to realise is, for Jesus to succeed, he actually can't save himself. Because he is the Christ. His mission is not to save himself so that he can save others. and they're sneering and mocking and teasing, and their insults flying from the cross right next door. It's all so cruel. What I'm so thankful for is that with all the mocking and making fun of him and teasing, Jesus resists it. He doesn't save himself. He isn't tempted. As I look at Jesus on the cross being treated so badly, I know, we sometimes sing these words, it was my sin that held him there. It was my sin that held him there. That's why he stayed on the cross. For me, I'm so thankful. The criminal on the other side somehow sees the truth, and he actually says, can't you see he's innocent? I've already heard that 4 times, now it's 5 times. He's innocent. He hasn't done anything wrong. And then he confesses some of the awful things that he has done, and he turns to Jesus and says, Jesus, I know that you are heading for glory. If it's possible, somehow, one day, can I follow you there? I don't think he could possibly have imagined the promise that Jesus gives. Jesus says, no, this is not one distant day in the future. It's today. Today, you will be with me in paradise. Eternal fellowship with me starts today. That's an amazing promise. And is it just for the thief, or is it for other people as well? What matters is not whether people think that you live a good life or whether you think you'd live a good life, but what matters the most is how you react to Jesus and whether you depend on him for mercy. Some people spend their entire life hardening their heart towards Jesus, maybe hoping that one day, as their body starts to shut down and they get ready to die, that they'll be able to turn around and suddenly depend on him for mercy. Don't depend on that. The amazing thing is, if you confess your guilt and ask Jesus for mercy, it has immediate results. Today, says Jesus. Yes, this thief has done terrible, terrible things. He doesn't have to make up for them. Jesus is doing that. Today you will be with me in paradise. Now the story moves to the last 3 hours, and the characters to keep watching are the crowd, and particularly now also Jesus' followers. The new guy is the centurion, the soldier who's in charge of these 3 crucifixions. The action now takes place from the middle of the day till the middle of the afternoon, and there's a darkness, an uncanny supernatural darkness which symbolises Jesus' greatest work underway. What is Jesus doing? He's bearing the curse of sin for that criminal and for us. He's bearing, on the cross, he suffered hell. It really was my sin that held him there. The darkness is all about Jesus' greatest work underway. And then we're told about a curtain being torn from top to bottom by God, and that symbolises Jesus' greatest work finished. And take notice, Jesus dies with a final cry of faith, praying for resurrection. Now, I'm going to ask, how do these characters react to the cross? And first I'm going to ask about the crowd. And if you're a mum or dad, I'm hoping that you can answer, how does the crowd react to the cross now? The followers of Jesus, I'm hoping a young adult might answer. How do the followers of Jesus react to the cross? And one more online, the centurion. How does the centurion react to Jesus? Natasha's going to read again.
Luke 23, verse 44 to 49. It was now about noon, and darkness came over the whole land until 3 in the afternoon, for the sun stopped shining, and the curtain of the temple was torn in two. Jesus called out with a loud voice, "Father, into your hands I commit my spirit." When he had said this, he breathed his last. The centurion said, seeing what had happened, praised God and said, "Surely this was a righteous man." When all the people who had gathered to witness this sight saw what took place, they beat their breasts and went away. But all those who knew him, including the women who followed him from Galilee, stood at a distance watching these things.
Is there a mum or a dad who can tell me, how does the crowd react to Jesus? Don't be shy. We have shy mums and dads. How does the crowd now react to Jesus? Yeah, you're a mum. They beat their breasts. They realise that what they've asked for is a terrible, terrible thing. It's regret. Is there a young adult who can tell me, how do the followers of Jesus react? I'm trying to decide what young is. It's always the question. Gillian? They stood at a distance. The followers of Jesus are just watching. They don't want to miss a moment, but I think they're a bit afraid to go any closer. And lastly, online, what about the centurion? How does the centurion react to the cross? Do we have any answers in the chat, Boyan? None yet? How does the centurion react? Like the second criminal, this Roman centurion's life is turned upside down. And what does he say? Surely this man was innocent. It's the 6th time we've heard it. I think we've got the point. Surely this man was innocent. In fact, he says, surely this man was righteous. Now, before sunset, what happens next? There's one final character, Joseph. Joseph, the well-off council member who was waiting for the kingdom of God and was disgusted at the overnight decision. I would say in Joseph we see Jewish faithfulness on full display. So as Natasha reads the last chunk, we're going to watch Joseph and also Jesus' followers, especially the women. And for the women, I'm hoping that there's a woman who can tell me how do the women react, especially if you're an aunt. And Joseph, I think anyone can tell me, how does Joseph react to Jesus? Thank you, Natasha.
Luke 23, verse 50 to 56. Now there was a man named Joseph, a member of the council, a good and upright man, who had not consented to their decision and action. He came from the Judean town of Arimathea, and he himself was waiting for the kingdom of God. Going to Pilate, he asked for Jesus' body. Then he took it down, wrapped it in linen cloth, and placed it in a tomb cut in the rock, one in which no one had yet been laid. It was preparation day, and the Sabbath was about to begin. The women who had come with Jesus from Galilee followed Joseph and saw the tomb and how his body was laid in it. Then they went home and prepared spices and perfumes, but they rested on the Sabbath in obedience to the commandment.
Thank you so much, Natasha. Is there a woman who can tell me, how do the women react to Jesus now? Yes, Kathy.
They loved him, they cared, they went home to prepare spices.
They go home to prepare spices. Before that, what are they doing? They're just following Joseph to see what happens. And anyone can tell me, what about Joseph? How does he react to the cross? Yes. He's sad. There's lots of different answers to this. I think Joseph is sad because he's disgusted at the decision that's been made. Anyone else have? Yes? I think he's a bit astonished. Any more answers? He's faithful. He is faithful. I should just say, for those who are in the room when you arrived today, there was a little book, The Search. This has the full story this is for you to take home, and you can either read it yourself, it's the whole of Luke's Gospel, or if there's someone that you'd like to give it to them and suggest that they could read it, or you could even, I've got plenty of copies, you could even read it with them. I also have 2 other books that I'm keen to give away. One is called Can We Trust What the Gospels Say About Jesus? And I have a few copies of that. If do you think that would be helpful for you or for someone else, come and ask me for a copy. And this book called Capturing God. The women don't want to miss a moment. I'm guessing that they are very thankful that Jesus' body isn't left on the cross until Sunday morning, because the Sabbath is about to start at sunset and they don't want Jesus' dead body there and, the birds can come and eat or something like that. So I'm guessing they're very, very thankful that Joseph has done something to put his body in a tomb. Joseph is looking forward to the day when God sends the Messiah to save his people, but he never imagines that this is the moment. All of them think that this is the end of the story. And so Joseph honours Jesus with a virgin tomb, which is helpful because on the Sunday morning, there's no possibility of making any mistake about which body is missing. There is such a wide range of reactions to the cross. From the women on the road weeping, to Pilate, we haven't even talked about Pilate, pretending that he's the innocent one, to the crowd who go from outrage to just watching and finally beating their breasts and weeping, to the rulers and soldiers and the first criminal with their sneering and scoffing and insults, to the followers of Jesus who are fearful, to Joseph who is so courageous, to the other criminal who is so hopeful, to the centurion who is so amazed. There are so many reactions, and the big question is, which one are you like? Which one do you want to be like? Jesus is condemned and crucified and buried, but the story's not over yet. And the question is, he's innocent. What do you make of his innocent sufferings? Because either paradise or judgment is coming. And so you can't just sit on the fence forever. Will you scoff and sneer, or will you confess and praise? Because Jesus came to seek and to save people just like you and me, that we might live. It was my sin that held him there until it was accomplished. His dying breath has brought me life. I know that it is finished.